What's going on, you guys? It's Tally. For those of you who are new to my channel, I make videos about personal development, specifically about how we can be happier, less stressed, and live lives that are much more fulfilled. If that sounds like something you might be interested in, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for more videos like this. Now, I know that YouTube is oversaturated with videos about why you should study abroad, from people who have done it and from people who travel regularly. But I'm making this video to tell you the reasons why you should study abroad as somebody who did not study abroad in college and has some serious regrets about doing that. Now, before I get into the video, I want to ask you guys, when you were in college, did you study abroad? If so, what was the biggest lesson you learned? And if not, is it something that you would want to do over again? Now, quick disclaimer, I am not doing any sort of financial analysis here. I did not study abroad because I was an RA for 3.5 years of college, so I didn't have to pay for rent, I didn't have to pay for food, and I had a job that I couldn't really leave if I wanted to come back and continue to RA. But the bigger reason, to be honest, is that I was super obsessed with fitness, and I couldn't imagine moving away somewhere and not being able to stick to my super regimented routine. But today, as somebody who has graduated college, as somebody who is in the beginning of their career, has moved to a new apartment, is basically adulting in every sense of the world, I beg you to at least consider studying abroad for these 6 reasons. Reason number 1, you don't have to leave your job or career. A lot of people after college will go into a company where they can build their career based off of the things that they learned. It's really difficult, especially if you go work for a company that you really love, or you go into a really cushy job, to leave said company to go travel for a long period of time. I love my company. I want to say I get 4 or 6 weeks of vacation time, but even if I were to take a month off, that's really not a lot of time to travel. Foreign exchange or study abroad is really great because you have this huge time period. You have like 3 to 4 months to 6 months of studying abroad, of being in another city. You can explore that city, you can explore nearby. If you start your career and you only have a limited amount of time to take off, you have to be really picky and really precise about your vacation. Most people can't really take a leave of absence or a sabbatical so early on in their careers. So if you wanted to do any sort of long-term travel, and then as a young adult, you'd probably have to leave your job or figure out a way to make it remote. So it just adds another complex layer. Reason number 2, it's an excuse to travel. Now, everybody makes fun of study abroad because typically you take easy classes. And I think this is really funny and kind of sad that people poke fun of study abroad because it's brilliant. It's literally an excuse to travel, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's a really big cultural shift between when you're in college and when you're an adult, and the way people perceive traveling and doing something for yourself. College is all about experimenting. It's all about trying new things, seeing what you like. You really get to be selfish and experimental. Whereas when you actually enter the real adult world and workforce, people tend to be a little older, they're a little bit more risk adverse. There's less of a culture of just go do something for the sake of it. So while you're in that culture, take advantage of it. It's really much more socially acceptable to go leave the country for 3 to 6 months at a time when you're in college because you have this reason of studying abroad, and then it's also easier to make that decision because there's other people making that decision. So take advantage of the culture, take advantage of the fact that it's normal to study abroad while you're in college. Reason number 3, you don't have to worry about breaking a lease, putting your stuff in storage, or paying rent while you're studying. Now, I'm not saying that rent is cheap when you're living in college, but it is significantly more affordable when you're living in a dorm or a sorority or an apartment that you're sharing with 4 or 5 other people, to just be able to take off and leave. It's easier to find somebody to replace you. You might leave one apartment and then come back 6 months later and find a new one nearby. You have less stuff typically because people in college don't really need a whole lot of stuff and you're sharing with a lot of people. You don't have to continue to pay rent. You can usually leave wherever you're living at and just, pay an extra few bucks for breaking the lease. There's much less commitment and it's much easier to switch up your living situations while you're in college. Moving after college tends to be a lot harder because you start accumulating more stuff once you get a paycheck. It just makes it easier to just drop your commitments and leave and then come back and be able to find something really similar. Reason number 4, everything is figured out for you. Well, maybe not everything, but you have a program that you're going with. So you have your professors, you have whoever's in charge of the program, you have other students who have had experience. You might not think about it, but all those resources save you a lot of time and a lot of stress while you're traveling abroad, especially if it's your first time going alone. You're surrounded by people who have answers and who at least can guide you and provide you some support. Whereas if you wait until after college and you wait until you're doing it on your own, you have to figure everything out. you don't get the same hand-holding that you do when you study abroad, which is really helpful when you're in a completely new situation. Reason number 5, when you're studying abroad and you're living in another country, you're in the middle of everything. Travel is significantly easier. When you live in the States, getting over to Europe is really challenging. You know, you spend a day traveling and a few days recouping. When you're in the middle of everything, you're so much closer to everything. You get access to budget airlines. You're only a few hours away from cities that you are interested in, and it's not as huge of a deal to try to travel there. You can't take a weekend trip to Rome when you're living in the States unless you're super loaded and have a jet. But when you're in the middle of the continent, it's cheaper, it's more accessible, it takes less time, it's just much more practical to be able to see cities that you would otherwise, as an adult who doesn't get a lot of time off from work, you would have to be super intentional and really picky about the places you go to. And finally, reason number 6, when you travel abroad, you're surrounded by people your age. Now, you might not be best friends with everybody, but it does make it easier when you're in another country to be surrounded by others who are going through the same things as you, as opposed to, again, as an adult, when you're starting your career, having to either find somebody who wants to go, find a travel buddy who wants to go to the same places and has the same budget and trying to plan a trip with them, or going alone, going solo, which is fantastic, but you're not surrounded by people who are going through the same things as you, so you have a community that's there to support you. So that's it, you guys. I try not to live in regret, but one of the things I regret most so far in my very young life is not studying abroad when I was in college. So if you're in college and you're considering studying abroad, or maybe you haven't even thought about it at all because of the financial or whatever reasons, I highly encourage you to give these reasons a thought, because it gets a lot harder to do long-term travel once you've actually started your career. Although, that being said, do not be discouraged if you're out of college from doing long-term travel, because that's in my plans right now. And once again, be sure to leave a comment below if you did travel abroad while you were in college. What was your best experience? If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll talk to you guys later.